In this lecture, we will create an animation for our enemy and set him up in our scene. We will make our enemy a prefab and then place enemies throughout our game level. The first step is to go to our sprites folder and drag our enemy 1 graphic into the scene. Next, let's modify this enemy's rotation and scale. We will change its Y rotation to 180 so that it faces left. We will change its scale to 0.2 in the X and Y direction. The next step is to open our animation window, select our enemy object, and create a new animation clip. We will call our animation enemy attack. We will drag our enemy 2 graphic to position 0 and 1 second in our animation window, and put our enemy 3 graphic in the middle of 30 milliseconds. We can then click the play button in our animation window to preview the animation on the enemy we have in the scene. We need to set up the enemy controller. Let's select our enemy and go to our animator window. We will create an empty state and mark it as default. This will be our idle state. We will make a transition from idle to enemy attack. We will create a parameter, isAttacking, and we'll set the condition to transition from idle to the enemy attack state to be if the parameter isAttacking is true. Let's make sure to keep our assets organized and drag our enemy attack animation clip and the newly created enemy animator controller into their respective folders, animations and animators. Next, we are going to lay out our enemies across our game level. Before we do that, we will add an empty game object as a child to our enemy in the scene and add a rigid body 2D and box collider 2D to the child object. We will check the isTrigger checkbox on the box collider 2D and will freeze the Y position and Z rotation of the rigid body 2D. We will also edit the box collider 2D so that it fits around our enemy. Then we will drag our enemy from our scene into our prefabs folder to make a prefab out of it. We will place our enemies around the scene at the locations I am placing them in the video. The workflow here is pretty simple. Just select the enemy, duplicate it, and use the move tool to place it in the level. Now that we have our enemies laid out across our level, in the next lecture we will work on scripting the enemy states, essentially linking up all of our enemy animation and movement through C# code.